Hello, everyone. Welcome to Unmask the Evidence. I'm Veronica. Today, we're going to be talking about Kerry Roberts' inconsistent statements, evidence that she seen and heard. I do not play the entire day of trial. I play certain clips of specific topics that I'm going to talk about. First thing we're going to talk about is that 5 a.m. phone call from Karen to Kerry, supposedly. First call, Karen says, John's dead. Second call, John was hit with a plow. Let's get to that testimony now.
Yes, I did.
Did you sleep through the night, Miss Roberts?
Yes, I did.
Okay. At some point, did you wake up?
Yes, I did.
I want you to tell us what was the reason that you woke up.
I got a phone call at 5 o'clock in the morning from Karen Reed.
Were you expecting a call?
No, I was not.
Had you ever received a call at 5 in the morning from Miss Reed before?
No.
Share with us what happened that morning. What did you hear?
Karen called, and the first thing she said was, Kerry, John's dead. And then she hung up. And then...
When she said that, did you have a chance to have a conversation with her?
No, I did not.
Describe her demeanor when she said that.
She was yelling loud enough, my name, I think it was 3 times, it might have been 2. She was yelling loud enough that she woke my husband.
Your husband was sleeping next to you?
Yes, he was.
Was she loud, yelling, screaming?
Yes, she was very loud. She was screaming.
After she said, Kerry, John's dead, did you know what she meant?
No.
And did you say this was around 5:15?
This was at 5. She called me at 5 on the dot.
Okay. After she hung up, what did you do?
I was half asleep still. I didn't know what was going on. So I started to get up, and I think I tried to call her back. I know I tried to call her back, but I don't know exactly when, because I was like, what? So my husband said, what was that? I said, I don't know. Something's going on. I don't know what's going on. That was Karen. And then I tried to call her back. I know I tried to call her back, but I don't know if she answered or if she called me back the next time I spoke to her.
So I don't remember if there's cell phone records that can verify this. I don't remember hearing anything about cell phone records that can corroborate what she's saying. So if you know, tell me in the comments, because right now I'm not remembering anything that can corroborate that.
After you, or she called you again, did you have another discussion, or did you hear her say something else the second time you spoke to her?
Yes, the second time she said, I think something happened to John. I think he got hit by a plow. He didn't come home last night. Kaylee was home. He would never leave her by herself, and I was not supposed to stay at the house last night. So I think something happened to him.
Did she say anything about drinking?
Yes, she said, we drank so much, I don't remember anything from last night. And I said, okay, where are you now? She said, I'm driving. And I said, you need to go home. Where's Kaylee? And she said, at home. I said, you need to go home and be with Kaylee. She cannot handle this, thinking, her uncle's missing. I said, you're going to get a DUI. You need to go home.
Was there anything else in the conversation that she said to you at that time?
She said, I'm going to drive to your house. Would you drive my car? And I said, yes. So at that point, I started to get dressed. I turned on the automatic car starter so it would warm up. Told my husband, I don't know what's going on. John didn't come home. And so I think my husband tried to call him, and I tried to call him. And my husband said, you're not going anywhere. It's a blizzard. He's probably on somebody's couch. And I was like, I know, but she's really upset. I'm just going to go. She wants to come here. I'm going to drive her car. And then I went out to my car and sat and waited for her.
So she agrees with her husband that John, I know, he could be laid up on a couch somewhere. But yet Karen has supposedly made these statements to her at 5 o'clock in the morning over the phone. It doesn't make sense to me.
When you called John, did you get any response?
No, I did not.
As you were waiting for the defendant, did you make any other phone calls?
I did. When I was in the car, I thought to myself, well, she thinks he got hit by a plow. I'm going to call the police and see if there was any accidents or maybe something happened. They brought him in. And I spoke to the officer who said, no, nothing of that sort. I've been here all night. And then I called the Good Samaritan Hospital and Milton Hospital to see if they had anybody that was taken in an accident.
See, she didn't specifically ask, you know, hey, did you find anybody that was in a snowplow accident or anything like that? She didn't say, you know, hey, my friend just said that John's dead and that he was in a snowplow accident or a snowplow hit him. She didn't say any of that stuff, so this cannot corroborate the phone calls that she made. She called to see if anything had been reported of any sort, not those specific things that Karen supposedly told her. Okay, now we're going to move on to Karen tells Jen, I guess, hey, my taillight, or maybe it's Kerry. But she says, hey, look, my taillight. I've never heard this before either.
You had some guidance finding it. Did you hear any conversations in that open line with, or even any statements by the defendant?
I remember when I pulled in behind her car in Jen's driveway, and at some point Karen said, my taillight, and I looked, and Jen she must have had the brake done because you could see that there was missing taillight.
When you say missing taillight, was it merely cracked?
No, there was a piece missing.
Could you see that as you were parked right behind the defendant's SUV or Lexus?
She must have been applying the brakes because you could see it, but there was a lot of snow.
So there's a big difference between a piece missing and that whole portion of the taillight is gone. It's missing. It's broken. There's a big difference between those. Now we're going to move on to Kerry talks about the visibility over at Fairview and that she couldn't see what Karen's seen as far as the amount of snow. But then suddenly she could see it from the vehicle later on in her testimony. It's inconsistent is what it is. Either you could or you couldn't see the amount of snow that was as long as a body.
Did you see anything?
I did not.
Did you see anybody?
I did not.
Did you look?
I looked.
Was there anything that impeded your ability to see far?
No, it was just snow.
How far could you see when she was yelling, there he is?
How far could I see?
Yes.
I mean, the visibility wasn't great.
Okay. Was she pointing or giving any direction?
No, she just said, there he is.
Okay. What happens next?
And then I unlocked the car. I looked over, I didn't see anything, and I unlocked it so she could get out of the back seat. I looked at Jen and I said, she's crazy. And then I turned around and watched, and she ran over to a mound of snow.
When she started running, before she got anywhere, did you see anything at that point?
I did not.
Were you looking?
I was looking. She said, there he is, so I'm looking around to see where he is.
You have to remember too, Kerry saying the visibility was not great. You couldn't see in the yard. But remember on Mr. Nuttall's testimony, they showed the dash cam. You could see in the yard, and you actually could see quite a ways ahead.
And you could see nothing?
I did not.
Did you see her run around or directly?
She ran right over to the mound of snow.
Could you tell what the mound of snow was from the car?
Once she got to it, yes, it was. Once she got to it, you could tell it was a mound of snow that was the length of a body.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to stop you there, Mr.
Okay, now we have to go on to day 2.
All right,
Can I ask one more question?
okay?
In that quote,
You chose to look for him.
Yes.
And I recall you said that you did.
Okay. This is going to be about when Karen shows the taillight at Meadows. Was it before going inside or after coming out? Carrie had to change her story on which one it was because there was video showing them going into John's house but never stopping at the taillight.
Did not see him there.
Correct.
At some point you left?
Correct.
When you went into Meadows, who did you go into Meadows with?
Karen and Jen Mcabe.
Have you ever seen any video from a ring camera depicting you and the defendant and Miss McCabe going into the home?
Yes, I have.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Actually, I've moved to introduce a ring video. It has certification, and then a smaller clip of that ring video if there's no objection.
Did you say if there's no objection or there is no?
If there's no objection. There's no objection. May I introduce Your Honor? Sure.
Exhibits 12A and 12B.
Thank you. And one final. Madam. Thank you.
12C.
It's a clip. 12C would be just fine. Thank you. Your Honor, if I may note, 12A is the ring video from 12 Meadows, 12B is the certification from Ring, and 12C is a clip of a portion of 12A.
That's accurate, yes, thank you.
Thank you. With the court's permission, I'd like to play 12C for the jury.
Okay.
Thank you.
As you can see, they never stopped by the taillight. So then Carrie and Jen had to change their testimony that it was not before going inside the house. It was after, when there's no video to prove that, because that video is just gone. Now, we're going to move on to an accurate depiction of the taillight. Even though it was snow-packed, Carrie says, yeah, it's accurate.
The day you saw it.
Correct.
Putting that aside, is that a fair and accurate depiction of the damage that you saw to the right rear taillight of Miss Reed's car that morning?
Yes.
I move to introduce this as an exhibit, please.
Any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit 13.
Thank you. With the court's permission, I'd like to publish Exhibit 13.
Sure.
So this taillight looks like the taillight Carrie seen that morning that was snow-packed. And as I said, there's a big difference between a piece is missing and the entire piece missing.
Ms. Roberts, I'm going to ask you to take a look at the photo that you just described. Do you see the white area in that photograph?
Yes.
Is that where the taillight had missing part?
Yes.
And where was the metal in relation to that white part that you see?
If you look at the white part, it's the upper left. It's sort of like a rectangle, but it's vertical, sort of.
And that's the metal part that you were concerned about?
Yes, one of the side, it's almost like an encasement, but the right side, I think it was the right side, was sticking out a little bit, like out from the car toward me.
Did you express any concern about the metal sticking out?
Yes, because I thought at that height it could clip someone's coat or something if they were walking by.
You mentioned the defendant asked you if you thought she hit somebody.
Correct.
How many times did she ask you that?
She asked me that in the driveway. How many times? She said, "Do you think I hit him? Do you think I hit him?" And my answer was, "No, I don't think you hit him. I'm sure you hit something because your taillight's broken, but I don't think you hit him. Why would I think that?"
Did you have any reason to think at that point that she hit anybody?
No.
Did she ever...
She had no reason to think that, but yet Karen said at 5 o'clock in the morning, "John's dead. He might have been hit by a plow. Oh, and look at my tail light." Okay, so we're going to move on to how far of a drive it is from Meadows to Fairview. And keep in mind, Karen was drunk. It was snowing. But somehow Karen made it from Fairview to Meadows in 3 to 4 minutes when it's 30 miles an hour, at least on Fairview. And you have to remember, she was supposedly driving in reverse at some point. So she would have to have gotten turned around. But somehow she got back to John's on his home Wi-Fi within 3 to 4 minutes.
Before or after you found John?
After we found John.
Okay, so we'll get to that then. Could we please take that picture down, Ms. Gilman? How far of a ride is it from Meadows to Fairview?
I don't know, maybe 8 minutes.
So when you left John's house at Meadows and you traveled to Fairview, you said you were driving.
Yes.
Was there any comments or conversation from the defendant on that ride?
There was talk of Bella's mom, who lived near Jen's sister. There was talk, and I said, "Where is Fairview?" And Jen said, "It's off of Chapman," so it was near Spring Lane. And I knew of somebody previously that John had dated on Spring Lane, so I brought it up thinking, could he have gone there if he was walking home? I don't know. I didn't know where he was or why he was missing.
Describe the mood in the car.
Well, it was scary driving, and Karen was, frantic, and she was yelling. I don't even remember at this point what she was yelling, but she was yelling. She had an elevated voice. She would be in between us while I was driving, and she would sit back in the back seat and be in between us.
Did you have any words with Miss Reed?
I told her to shut up several times because I was trying to drive and I couldn't concentrate. I told her to sit back and buckle up because it was bad driving. I didn't want to get into an accident and her not have a seatbelt on.
So being disrespectful, telling her to shut up, be quiet, whatever. Karen is hysterical. She knows it's not normal for Kim to not come home. He's got the kids there and he's gone. He's not answering. But let's all just be rude to Karen. Okay, we're going to skip forward to Kerry supposedly told Karen to get off of John. But the 911 call that is played during Jen Mcabe's testimony, Jen is saying, "Kerry, get off of him. Kerry, you've got to get off of him, honey."
Fine, but his right eye looked like it was huge, like he had something happen to it. And after that, I told Karen to get off him. We were going to start CPR. I had been certified at work through the American Red Cross, so I knew chest compressions were more important. So I started to do chest compressions, and I yelled to Jen and told her to call 911. Karen was trying to do mouth-to-mouth. I don't know if she knew what she was doing, but I knew chest compressions were more important, so I concentrated on that. I yelled for Jen. I carry blankets. I have 2 kids, so I carry blankets in the car, so I yelled to Jen to get the blankets. I don't know what I thought I was doing with blankets, but I wrapped them around his head, just thinking we're trying to warm him up. He was covered in snow.
Okay, now we're going to skip further forward. This is during an interview that Kerry had with 2 law enforcement. She is at Jen's. Kerry is at Jen's during the interview by the two law enforcement officers.
Were you interviewed at a later time by any other law enforcement?
Yes.
Okay, where were you at that next interview?
I think I was at Jen's house. We were making a timeline together when two law enforcement showed up to question her. But I happened to be there, so they took us in separate rooms and questioned both of us.
Were you sober at that point?
Yes.
And what was your mental state then?
Still, we hadn't even had a funeral. So I was still, I couldn't believe what was happening.
And after John's passing, did you still continue to help out with the children?
Yes.
With the court's permission, I would like to...
Okay, now we're going to move on to, this is now Jackson crossing Kerry Roberts about the number of times that she spoke to the DA's office, which is a lot. But let's get to that now.
Your Honor, may I? Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Roberts. How are you?
Good morning.
Under questioning by Mr. Brennan, you talked about the number of times or a number of times that you have spoken to the DA's office or some member of the DA's office. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about that.
Sure.
How many times in total do you think you've spoken to a representative of the district attorney's office?
I don't have a number.
Would you say it's more than a dozen?
Yes.
Would you say it's more than 50?
Maybe around there.
Okay.
Maybe less.
And who are the folks, Ms. Roberts, that you have spoken to at the DA's office?
Steve Nelson,
Okay.
the victim advocate, Yuri Buchanan, who's a state police officer, and the DA, Michael Morrissey.
And what was the, I want to take those in order, and two of those are at the DA's office. One of those is not. Yuri Buchanan is not at the DA's office. He's actually a Massachusetts State Police officer, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's take those in order. How many times would you say you've spoken to Mr. Nelson? Just if you can give me a thumbnail.
I don't know, maybe 30, 40.
Okay. Have you received what you would consider to be updates on the progress of the case?
I would ask questions, and he would give me very broad answers.
Okay. Were your questions ever prompted by conversations that you had with your friend, Ms. Mcabe, Jen Mcabe?
Sometimes Jen would say, could you ask Steve this, because I had a rapport with Steve.
Okay. Were those conversations by text message or phone calls or both?
I would usually text him.
Okay. What about the conversation with, or conversations with Mr. Morrissey, the elected district attorney? What were the circumstances under which you contacted Mr. Morrissey?
Well, during the course of this trial, the witnesses have been harassed.
That's not my question.
Objection.
But I'm answering your question.
Hold on. I'm going to sustain the objection. Next question.
Thank you. Were you phoning him? Were you meeting him? Were you texting him? That's my question. The circumstances of the communication itself.
I phoned the office asking for a meeting, had a meeting, and then he left a voicemail at some point and texted me and said, I just left you a voicemail.
Okay. Was that the extent of your conversations with Mr. Morrissey, the elected DA?
I had one other meeting with other witnesses.
Okay.
And the DA.
And turning to Yuri Buchanan, what were the logistics, I'll use that word instead of circumstances, what were the logistics of you contacting Yuri Buchnick? Was it by phone? Was it in-person meetings, text messages, or all of the above? All of the above.
All of the above.
How many times would you say that you've spoken with Yuri Buchnick?
Spoken or communicated?
Sorry, good point. Communicated with.
Probably 20.
Okay. When was the last time, actually let me ask you a different question. Have you ever met with Mr. Brennan before your testimony today?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a lot of contact with DA officials. That's a lot. Like, I don't think I've heard of a case where a witness is contacting officials numerous times trying to get information. Now we're going to move on to Karen's statement to Officer Seraph on a video that Jackson shows that might supposedly say, my boyfriend, I dropped him off and he never came home. I don't hear it. Somebody else might hear it. And if you do hear it, let me know and kind of point me into the video where I need to be hearing it.
Yes.
Okay, Evan. Okay, stop. Do you recognize the video as being the same video that you saw and you looked at on direct examination?
Yes.
Okay, in just a quick second, the door to the car, you're going to hear it open. I'd like to ask you to pay special attention to the audio portion and Miss Reed's voice,
Okay.
if you can hear it. Go ahead. Stop. Did you hear that last statement?
No.
Did you hear a woman's voice kind of faint in the background?
I heard a voice, but I didn't make out what she was saying.
Okay. Did it sound like she said, my boyfriend, I dropped him off and he never came home?
Objection.
Could you hear that, Ms. Roberts?
No.
Okay.
Next question.
Yeah, you guys let me know, because I can't hear it. We're going to move on to inconsistent statement of showing the taillight. Kerry had to change it to after they were leaving because there was video proof showing otherwise of what they had prior testified to. This is Jackson's portion of that video.
Three of you arrived back at One Meadows, correct? Is that right? I'm sorry.
Correct.
Okay. You're trailing the Lexus SUV, correct?
Correct.
The Lexus pulls in to the driveway and you pull in directly behind Miss Reed and Jennifer Mcabe is driving.
Correct.
You're driving your SUV, correct?
Correct.
You've previously testified that when you arrived at One Meadows at that moment, that once that SUV, the Lexus SUV, had pulled in and you pulled in behind the Lexus, you got out of the Lexus, sorry, you got out of your SUV, they got out of the Lexus, and that's a point at which Karen showed you the back of her taillight and said something to the effect of, do you think I hit him? Do you think I hit him? Oh my God, do you think I hit him? Do you recall that?
I recall saying I didn't know if it was when we were coming or going, but she did point out the taillight.
Okay. When you previously testified under oath, your quote was, quote, Karen pulls in and I pull in behind her.
Mr. Jackson.
Give page and line numbers when
Yes.
offering statements.
Sure. It's the SGJ, the grand jury, page 58, lines 14 through 19 for court and counsel.
Thank you.
Did you testify, quote, Karen pulls in and I pull in behind her, period. When we get out and Karen is now showing us the back of the car, saying, my taillight, do you think I hit him? Do you think I hit him? Oh my God, do you guys think I hit him? Question mark. End quote. Is that
Yes.
how you testified?
May I see it?
Sure. I apologize, I've already got it up here.
Does it have a date on it, Mr. Jackson?
It does. (4/26/22). May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
She's going to request more testimony report saying, oh, well, it's not on here. It must be on another page.
Do you have the pages after this?
I'm sure I do.
Because in the pages after this, I say,
My question, Ms. Roberts, is that a quote that I just said, is that accurate? Do you see it in the
yes, it is.
okay. May I approach?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach
Yes.
one more time? Thank you. Just for reference.
So he provides that other piece of paper that she wanted. It's not on there either. So then she's, well, I know I said that. It's got to be on here somewhere.
I'm going to show you both pages. That's the page I asked you to look at, and then the following page as well. Please take your time.
Okay. What I'm looking for is still not here, because I did say I wasn't sure if it was
Yes.
before or after.
Ms. Roberts, you do have to wait for a question.
Okay.
When you gave this testimony, you were in front of a grand jury, correct?
I'm not sure which one that is.
Do you remember testifying in front of a grand jury on April 26th, 2022?
Yes.
Okay, about 2 years ago.
Yes.
3 years ago. You were under oath at the time. Is that right?
Yes.
Things were fresher in your mind at that time than they are now, 3.5 years later, I'm guessing. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. You were asked the question to describe the circumstance when you arrived at One Meadows. Is that right?
Yes.
And the answer that you gave was, quote, we pulled into it's a driveway, there's 2 cars, and then 2 cars, then a single, so John's car is there. Karen pulls in, and I pull in behind her. When we get out, and Karen is now showing us the back of the back of the car, saying, my taillight, do you think I hit him? Do you think I hit him? Oh my God, do you guys think I hit him? That was your testimony at the time, correct?
Yes.
And it changed because the video shows no approaching of the taillight or anything. So then it had to be done. Well, it happened after we came out where there's no video. Now we're going to move over to Kerry never mentions the taillight at her interview. Doesn't mention it until 2 days later on February 1st before she mentions it for the first time.
Very first conversation with those 2 troopers on January 29th, you didn't mention anything about a taillight or a cracked taillight, or
No,
even
I did
having
not.
seen a cracked taillight, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I didn't want to accuse anybody of anything.
You were then
She didn't want to accuse anybody of anything. But yet you're saying Karen said, John's dead. He was hit by a plow. And then, do you think I hit him? Look at my taillight. Oh my gosh, do you think I hit him?
Interviewed on February 1st, 2022, a few days later, correct?
I don't know.
Does that
I
sound
don't know
right?
the exact date. I was interviewed again, but I don't know the exact date.
Okay. During your interview, let me withdraw that and ask a different question. On February 1st, or whatever day, let me have just a moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
May I approach?
Yes.
I'm handing you a 2-page report, Ms. Roberts. I put a little dot on the second page just to direct your attention to the discussion related to the taillight, if you want to take a look at that.
Okay.
Okay. May I?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection that you were interviewed on February 1st, 2022 by a trooper by the name of Connor Keefe and a trooper by the name of Kathleen Prince?
Yes. Did Connor Keefe write that report?
I'm sorry?
Did Connor Keefe write that report?
Trooper Kathleen Prince wrote the report.
Okay.
Does that matter? No?
Nope.
Okay.
That was a weird question. Like, why does it matter who wrote it? You said you recall, you remember it. We're gonna move on to Link's house. Kerry and Jen are at Link's house for about 45 minutes. Jen goes in to use the bathroom. Kerry's in the car with Link's wife. But they're there for 45 minutes.
Nobody stopped off at 34 Fairview either on the way or on the way back?
No. I don't believe so. That wouldn't be the route in which to get to my house.
Right. Exactly. You indicated that you stayed, even though you were dropping off your daughter, y'all stayed, you and Ms. Mcabe stayed at Sergeant Lank's house for some 45 minutes. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
And Sergeant Lank's wife, you indicated, was in the back seat of your car?
Yes.
Did y'all ever go inside the house?
Jen went in to go to the bathroom.
Was Sergeant Lank there?
I don't know. I didn't go in.
You didn't have any communications with Sergeant Lank?
I'm sorry?
You didn't have any communications with Sergeant Lank himself, Mike Lank, on that trip?
No, I did not.
But you don't know whether or not Jen did?
I don't know whether or not Jen did. She went in the house to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
They don't ask how long was she inside using the bathroom, or like, was it 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Did she come back out? So I don't know how long Jen was in there, but we all know she wasn't using the bathroom for 45 minutes. we're gonna continue forward. Kerry's first story is told on January 29th at her house around dinner time, and gets a call from Jen just before the interview.
Objection.
Sustained.
I want to talk about the statements in the prior testimony that you have provided in this case, Ms. Roberts. There's been several of them. The first time you told your story to law enforcement was on January 29th. We've already established that, correct?
Say that again?
It was on January 29th, the first time you relayed your story to law enforcement.
Yes.
And that was to Trooper Dunn and Trooper DeChico. That's the name I couldn't remember.
I don't remember.
But you do remember Trooper Dunn?
I remember 2 troopers. I don't know their name.
Okay. Where did that interview take place?
In my dining room.
And who was with you when you gave that interview, if anybody?
My husband was home. I think my daughter was home at that point. My husband was home. I don't know if the kids were home.
Nobody else from outside the family?
No.
Okay. Who contacted you about doing that interview? How did they know to come to you at your home?
I don't remember. They may have just shown up. I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember what time the interview was?
Maybe around dinner time, maybe around 5, 6.
Was it recorded?
I'm sorry?
Was it recorded in any way? Tape
I don't-
recorder running?
I don't think so.
The troopers were taking notes, obviously?
I believe so.
During your conversation with, and I'm jumping around a bit, so I apologize. During your conversation or conversations with Mr. Brennan and the DA's members of the DA's office in preparation for your testimony, were any of those interviews recorded?
No.
Was anybody taking notes?
No.
No, none of the DAs were actually taking notes, the ADAs?
I didn't look around the table to see if anyone was taking notes, but I didn't see them taking notes.
No pads and pens on the table?
There was a lot of stuff on the table, but I didn't see anybody taking notes.
Okay. You received a phone call just before that interview started at 5:25 p.m., correct?
Around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Is this the night of the 29th, you mean?
This is the night of, I'm jumping back to the night of the 29th.
Yeah, I'm not following you very well.
That's okay. On the 29th,
Yeah.
when you were interviewed around 5:25 p.m., maybe just a little bit before that,
Yeah.
you received a phone call just before that, correct?
I do not know.
Isn't it true that Jen Mcabe called you and spoke to you just before that?
I spoke to Jen Mcabe the entire day.
Okay. Including just before that interview.
I don't know.
Did you tell Jen Mcabe that you were about to be interviewed?
No.
Did you tell her at some point did you text her and tell her that the officers had arrived?
I don't think so.
Did she text you back and say, call me right after?
I don't know.
Jackson is asking these questions because he knows the answer. He's going to confront her with this here after a little bit, but for some reason he doesn't do it right now. I think maybe because they're looking for the report. But Jackson knows the answer. He's just trying to get her to answer it.
Okay. During the course of that interview, when the incident was still pretty fresh in your mind, you indicated that at about 5 a.m. you got a call from Karen Reed indicating that John never came home and that she was worried, correct?
Correct.
You also indicated that she was worried that John may be walking and may have gotten hit by a plow. You relayed that to the officers.
Yes.
You indicated that you met up with Karen Reed and Jennifer Mcabe at Jennifer Mcabe's house, and Karen was hysterical and worried that something had happened to John.
Yes.
You also indicated that once you were at 34 Fairview, once you all had made your way over to 34 Fairview, Karen saw John and ran to him, although you and Jennifer didn't see him initially, correct?
That's correct.
You said that Karen was repeating the phrase, is he dead, over and over. Is that right?
That is correct.
You also indicated that she said that if anything happened to John, she'd kill herself, correct?
That's what she said to me.
Object.
So the objection sustained.
Did you indicate at any time, I'm sorry, let me ask it a different way. Did either of the troopers indicate to you after your initial interview that If there was anything further that you could recall that would be useful, please provide it. Please give it to at that time.
I don't know.
Okay. Would it refresh your recollection to look at that January 29th report?
Sure.
So he asked you if those officers told her, you know, it is against the law to lie to us and you can be jailed or fined or whatever. She doesn't remember. So he ends up refreshing her recollection with the report. And then we'll discuss after that how dramatic she wants to act. Sorry, that's my dog.
May I?
Yes.
Thank you. Having looked at the report...
No, bring it to her and show it to her again.
She's just... it's the same thing that I just showed her. Having looked at the report, does that refresh your recollection about what Trooper Dunn and DeChico told you at the end of the interview?
I don't recall. It's not refreshing. I'm not remembering it. Even reading it, I'm not remembering it.
I see.
She's reading a report. She knows what was said. It's right there in that report. She doesn't remember, though. It's not refreshing her. She doesn't remember. And look how mad she is getting.
Okay, fair enough. So as you sit here, the details about what you told her, what those two officers told you, are not fresh in your mind, and nothing's refreshing your recollection about that.
Right.
Okay, but you do remember the basics of what I just described in that conversation with those two troopers.
I mean, they asked me what happened. I told them, but I was also in shock.
You never said during the course of that interview that my client called you at 5 o'clock in the morning just hours earlier and said he's dead and then hung up, correct?
No, I don't believe I said it at that point. I did not remember that until a couple of days later.
I see.
How do you forget that somebody called you at 5 o'clock in the morning, said John is dead, he got hit by a plow, did I hit him, could I have hit him, oh my gosh, look at my tail light, and all of this is just not important, it's not coming to your head? If somebody ever said something like that to me, that would be stuck in my mind, stuck in my head, because like, did you seriously just say that? Like, what did you do? What happened?
I see. And in fact, when you were asked about that particular statement, when you were asked about that particular series of events, that never came to your mind.
No.
That literally, the first words out of Karen Reed's mouth, according to you now, is he's dead, and then hung up.
Correct.
When you heard that, you didn't take that to mean that she killed him.
No.
Of course not. She was panicked, correct?
Yes.
You did add that, one other thing that you didn't add in your initial statement to Trooper Dunn and Trooper DeChico is anything about the taillight either. Correct?
Not.
Okay. And you also didn't say anything about any sort of a Google search or the praying that you talked about in the back of the patrol car, anything like that?
No.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay, now we're going to move on to her second interview. Is that Jen's? While they're prepping a timeline together at Peggy O'Keefe's request, why would a timeline be needed if you're just telling the truth? You remember the truth. Lies are hard to remember, and you have to write them down.
That second interview was conducted at 12 Country Lane, correct?
Yes.
And who again lives at 12 Country Lane?
Jennifer Mcabe.
So the second time you told your memory, your story to law enforcement, you were literally sitting in Jennifer McCabe's house.
Yes.
And you had met with Jennifer McCabe before your interview, correct?
Yes. We were putting a timeline together.
So you two were actually prepping, if that's a valid term, prepping for your interview, putting a timeline together, correct?
We were putting a timeline together at the request of Mrs. O'Keefe.
And Jennifer McCabe, was helping you with the timeline, and you were helping her with the timeline.
Yes, we were putting together the events of what had happened.
So she was helping you, and you were helping her, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So both of you were assisting in each other's memories, correct?
Yes.
I remember this, and you remember this, and okay, now I remember this, correct?
Yep.
Obviously, that would help influence your memory, going
Yes.
over the event with someone else, correct?
Yep.
So what's on that timeline, you would agree, is not completely independent, your memory. It's a combination of your memory and Jennifer McCabe's memory. Isn't that right?
Yes.
At least she admits to that, because that is absolutely true. Okay, we're going to go forward a little bit to Kerry's second interview. Jen texted her during the interview. She's telling them everything. All the stuff is what Jen is communicating with people that were inside that house, because she is listening in on Kerry's interview.
And then it was after that that this timeline was coordinated between the two of you, that you actually told your second story to Trooper Prince. And when I say second story, I mean the second time you were interviewed on February 1st as opposed to January 29th. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you ever become aware of text messages that Jennifer McCabe was sending to others in a group chat talking about you in that interview?
No.
You were never told or became aware that she sent text messages to a group as she listened in on your interview?
No. I don't think she could listen in. She wasn't anywhere near me.
You weren't aware that or are you aware as you sit here?
I'm sure Kerry knows that Jen was discussing what she was hearing, especially because they were so close, remember?
Here that she sent a text message that said she's telling them everything, all the stuff.
Sustained.
Have you ever been provided a text message or told about a text message that perhaps Jennifer McCabe was sending to a group?
No.
Listening to your suggesting that she was listening to your interview?
No.
The third time you told your story was later that night in a telephonic interview. Is that right? With Trooper Proctor?
I requested to speak to Trooper Proctor because I had remembered the very first time I spoke with Karen that morning, and I wanted to make sure it was recorded.
Okay, that wasn't my question. My question was, did you have another telephonic conversation with Trooper Proctor, yes or no?
You said that night, but it wasn't that night.
When was it?
I think it was earlier that day.
Okay. But it was after the interview with Trooper Prince.
I don't think so.
Think it was beforehand?
I think it was beforehand.
You were still with Jennifer McCabe when that call took place, correct?
I was in her house. I was not with her. I stepped away to speak to him by myself.
In her home at 12 Country Lane?
Correct.
Who else was with you other than Jennifer McCabe in the house?
Her sister was there writing down the timeline for
Who's
us.
that?
Her sister, Denise.
Denise? So she was scribing the timeline as you and Jennifer McCabe were creating it?
She was writing it down as we were remembering things.
Right. And the three of you were doing this together, sort of communally.
Yes.
She would say something, then you would say something, then it would spark something that she would say, and back and forth, correct?
Yes.
How is it that Trooper Proctor got a hold of you? Did you call him or did he call you?
I think he was on the phone with Jen, and I asked to speak to him.
So Trooper Proctor got a hold of you through talking to Jen McCabe.
Well, I asked to speak to him, but yes.
Right. Was that interview recorded, to your knowledge?
I don't know.
She doesn't know if it was recorded, but when she wanted to speak to him to tell him about this call that she had with Karen that first thing that morning. She wanted to make sure that it was recorded. So who recorded it? Where is that conversation at between her and Proctor?
The fourth time you met with police was February 2nd, the very next day, at about 12:08 p.m. Is that right?
I don't remember.
Do you remember signing a consent form for your phone?
Yes.
Was that?
They complied with the consent form for their phone. Her and Jen both. Well, Karen too. So we're going to skip on to when Jackson confronts Kerry with those text messages that were sent between Kerry and Jen about, hey, the troopers are here. Jen, okay, call me when you're done.
Not recall texting with Jen Mcabe during that January 29th interview with state police. Do you recall that or no?
No.
Okay.
During the interview, I didn't text anybody.
Okay. Are you saying you didn't text anybody, or you don't recall?
I don't recall. I don't think I had I wouldn't be texting somebody if I was being interviewed by the state police.
Right. Okay. Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at a report of text messages?
Sure.
May I approach you?
Yes.
Thank you. May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Take a look. There's two tabs. Take a look at the tabs and the data across the two tabs, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'm in a rush. May I?
Yes. Okay. Jurors, feel free to stand up and stretch if you'd like. And I forgot to tell you, anytime we're at sidebar, please feel free to stand up and stretch, okay?
That was quicker than we thought, Judge. May I proceed?
Yes.
Okay. Did you take a look at this document?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection that there were two text messages at around the time of your interview with those two troopers?
No.
Do you recall, as you sit here, texting Ms. McCabe that the state troopers were arriving or they're just getting there?
No.
Do you recall Ms. McCabe texting you anything back about calling me after?
No.
Okay. Did you, in fact, different question, did you, in fact, call Ms. McCabe right after the interview and talk to her?
I don't know.
She doesn't know. She doesn't recall. Of course not, because now she's being impeached and she doesn't want to look like a liar.
Have you ever testified that at the scene, Miss Reed was seated in the back of a patrol car along with Jennifer McCabe, and you were standing just outside the car, and there was an interaction among the three of you?
Yes.
Have you ever testified, or have you ever stated, in any particular, that during that interaction, Karen asked the three of you to pray?
Yes.
Have you ever said or testified that during that interaction where you're seated, where they are seated in the back of the patrol car, and Ms. Reed asked you to pray, that Ms. Reed said to Jennifer McCabe, Google hypothermia?
No.
You've never said that.
I've never said that.
You testified at the grand jury on April 26th. Is that right? April 26th, 2022?
I do not know.
Right? Does that sound right? April 26th, 2022?
I have no idea.
Late April 2022, does that sound right?
I don't know. It was 2022.
You testified under oath, correct?
Yes?
Swore the same oath that you swore here.
Yes?
Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, but guilty of perjury. Is that right?
Yep.
Karen told Jen to Google hypothermia, or that you don't recall saying that?
I don't recall saying that.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at portion of your grand jury testimony from that day?
It might.
May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure. And if you can read on to page 83 as well.
Okay, we're going to skip forward to what she said and what she actually heard at the scene and what she told the grand jury.
May I approach?
Yes.
Sure. Thank you. Just a portion at the bottom of the page.
At the bottom?
At the bottom, last couple of paragraphs.
Okay. Yep, I say I think, so I'm not
I have
positive.
a question for you.
Okay.
Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. And you testified basically that you think, at least that's what you were telling the grand jurors, that you
Yep.
think that was the point at which they lifted John up
Yes.
and moved him into the ambulance, correct? Is that right?
Yes.
And then you were asked a question, what, if anything, did she, Miss Reed, ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard, correct?
Objection.
Do you recall that?
I did not hear the question about Google being asked.
That's not my question. May I ask? May I inquire?
Just repeat that question.
Sure. Isn't it true that you were next asked by Mr. Lally in front of the grand jury, quote, what, if anything, did she, Miss Reed, ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard, end quote. Do you remember being asked that question?
No.
She remembers all of her truthful statements. She cannot remember her inconsistent statements.
May I approach? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So if you're willing to look at lines 16 through 18.
Okay.
May I?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection? That was the question that you were asked?
Yes.
Okay. And in response to that question, you stated, quote, at one point she asked her to Google hypothermia and how long Google hypothermia. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
That was very detailed. You'll agree that that's a very detailed and specific recount of an event. You recounted where you were, back of a cruiser, or they were in the back of a cruiser, correct?
Yep.
You recorded or reported the time. It was right around the time that you thought they were lifting John up and scooped him up onto the gurney, correct?
Yep. I thought it was about that time. I wasn't sure.
Location,
I'm sorry, I didn't get that answer. You were talking over each other.
That's my mistake.
What was your answer, Ms. Ross?
I thought it was about the time they lifted him up, but I wasn't sure.
You were very detailed about who was there. It was you. It was Jen. It was my client, Kerry
Yes.
Reed, correct?
Okay, we're going to skip forward to Kerry doesn't think that she should have mentioned anything about the taillight because she didn't want to point fingers. Even though, like we already discussed, Karen called Kerry at 5 a.m. and said, John's dead. He was hit by a plow. Oh my gosh, my taillight. Do you see my taillight? Did I hit him? Oh my gosh. But that wasn't important. That's not anything that clicked in her head. But, well, you know, maybe I should mention something.
And Kaylee was here. He would never leave Kaylee by herself.
Did anybody ever ask you to lie
No.
or exaggerate?
No.
Would you?
Say that?
Would you?
No.
Sustained.
You were asked whether or not you told people on January 29th about the missing pieces to the defendant's taillight. And you began to say you didn't tell anybody that morning.
I didn't think it had anything to do with John. I didn't want to point fingers at anybody.
Why?
I didn't think it had anything to do with John. But yet at 5 a.m., she's telling Kerry, John's dead. He was hit by a plow. None of that has anything to do with John?
Not.
Because I had no idea what had happened to him. I wasn't going to point fingers at his girlfriend.
Was it, in fact, broken with missing pieces that morning?
Yes.
You saw the ring video of you and Miss McCabe and the defendant going into John's house?
Yes.
Had you seen that video before today?
Yes.
Had you been shown it before in
Yes.
other proceedings?
Yes.
When you went into the house with Miss McCabe and the defendant, did you do anything before you went into the house, actually in the house?
When
we
took off our shoes and
You took off your shoes?
Jen and I both took off our boots
Why did you take off your boots?
because you had to take off your shoes to go into John's house.
Well, you say you had to. Explain to us a little bit of the background on that.
John was a neat freak. You were not allowed to wear shoes in the house.
Had you ever worn shoes in his house?
No.
Had you ever seen anybody wear shoes in his house?
No.
You and Miss
They do
McCabe?
now. They do now.
Let's see. You and Miss McCabe took your shoes off?
Yes.
Did the defendant take her shoes off?
She did not.
Whose first concern is going to be, oh my gosh, let me take my shoes off. I'm searching for my missing boyfriend. This is not like him. He's missing. The kids are here. He would never leave the kids. Whose first thought would be, let me spend 2 minutes or 3 minutes taking my shoes off. And let me spend about the same getting them back on my feet before I can go search for somebody.
How do you remember that?
Because Jen and I were standing there for about a good 2 minutes trying to get our boots off, and she had already gone in the house.
Do you know why you were called that morning?
No.
Did you volunteer to be part of this
Yes.
after the call?
Yes.
You had said you thought that you looked at the taillight before you went into John's house.
Yes.
Do you remember actually seeing the tail light that morning?
I do.
Was it simply cracked?
No.
Do you know that the portion of the Ring video from when you came out of the house with the defendant, Ms. McCabe, do you know that that portion is missing?
Objection.
Sustained.
Have you ever seen any Ring video depicting when the defendant was showing you her missing pieces of taillight that morning?
No.
So maybe Brennan needs to be asking his people, where did the footage go from the Ring video showing them leaving that evening or that morning? Because it wasn't Karen, considering Karen didn't have access to it.
Despite no video,
And it proves that Karen did not access it from all the logs.
certain that you saw it?
Say it again.
Are you certain that you looked at it with the defendant that morning in that driveway?
Objection.
Sustained.
I'd like to play clip 3, please.
Okay.
Clip 3 is obviously inappropriate for this witness. We're going to go forward. This is back to Jackson. And he asked her, Lally's actual question prior was if you heard Karen tell Jen to Google hypothermia. Oh, jeez. Okay, we're just gonna play it.
This now. All right, go ahead, Mr. Brennan.
When you first got to John and you were trying to save him that morning, do you have a distinct memory of it?
Yes.
Counsel had asked you if it was your story. Was this a story?
Say it again.
Was it a story that you told?
A story?
Yes.
It's what happened.
Do you wish it was just a story?
Objection.
Sustained.
There's no further questions.
Okay, so recross.
Just a few minutes ago, did you ever say that you actually heard that statement about that Google search? And you said no.
Correct.
The question that was posed to you by Mr. Lally was, what, if anything, did she, Miss Reed, ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard? Correct?
I misunderstood the
And
question.
you misunderstood that question?
Yes.
What did you misunderstand about that question?
I didn't know it was that you heard, so I was explaining what happened in the back of the car.
I see. So you just ignored the part, literally, the part of the question where he said, what did you hear her say? That's what your
The word
testimony
was
is now?
heard, and I didn't hear it. I obviously.
What did you hear her say? Not what did somebody tell you or what have you heard somebody told you. It was specifically hear her say. I don't know how you can mix that up.
got the question wrong because I did not hear anybody ask about a Google search.
Well, I know that's what you're saying now. I get that. But when you were asked, what, if anything, did she ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard, your immediate answer was, at one point, she asked her to Google hypothermia and how long dash Google hypothermia, end quote. Correct?
Correct.
That was your answer.
Yes.
Correct?
To a question I misunderstood.
And that was a false statement, wasn't it?
Technically.
Technically?
Yes.
It's like being a
Technically.
little bit pregnant, Miss Roberts.
Okay, so Remember, jurors, I said earlier, comments of counsel are not evidence and you're to disregard them. Ask a question.
Thank you, Your Honor. What do you mean technically?
Technically, I was under oath, and I did not hear Karen asked Jen to Google it.
And yet under oath...
But I knew it happened at that
And
time.
yet under oath you said you did.
Correct.
And that was a lie, correct?
Objection.
Was that a lie? Did you lie?
I did not intentionally.
But you did.
And
Not intentionally.
okay, that's the end of
Understood
this.
the question, Mr. Jackson.
All right. Is there any other question, or is that it?
I didn't hear what you just said.
I said I misunderstood the question, Mr. Jackson.
That's what you're saying now, correct?
That's what happened.
All right.
Real defensive for somebody that was caught lying to the grand jury. And she is mad. So, if Karen told Jen to search hypothermia because she wanted to know, like, what would happen if he was out here, or what's the effects of it? Does he have the symptoms of it? What? That's a lot different than somebody searching how long to die in the cold. There's a big difference between those two. And if they're saying, Kerry and Jen are saying that Karen said, hey, search hypothermia, then Jen and Jen alone is responsible for how long to die in the cold. Why would she search that? So that's all for this one, you guys. Hit that like and subscribe button. Next week, I'm going to work on Jen Mcabe, which is probably going to take a while. And until then, see ya.